Corruption has always been a negative factor in service delivery. Now, with the country battling the COVID-19 pandemic, the effects of corruption are exacerbated. A report by Corruption Watch has found that it still persists in policing, education and the health sector. Irregular expenditure, financial misconduct, theft and other illegal activities are found to be the reason for the country's deteriorating health system. Corruption Watch Executive Director David Lewis speaks to us about this. David, a very good morning to you. I should imagine that it can only get worse in these times.
Well, you know, part of the character of any emergency, certainly of this scale, is that a number of key regulations are suspended and have been suspended, and probably rightly so. And those include procurement to allow for emergency procurement. And, you know, in normal times, emergency procurement, when there is a probably greater degree of oversight, is often abused in order to basically evade regulations. And so now that needs to be very carefully monitored and supervised and under difficult circumstances. So yes, I'm afraid we can't let our guard down around corruption. You know, and quite honestly, you know, the fact that we've had, for example, and our report showed that such a dysfunctional public health system has a lot to do with corruption and maladministration. The fact that we have such a dysfunctional water sector where the number of people with access to clean water and sanitation has declined is almost entirely a consequence of corruption.
So possibly this report that you're drawing from now could look a lot worse next year. But tell us more about the factors that have been directly impacted negatively by corruption and why.
Well, you know, of the reports that we are getting, this is the first, you know, for persistently throughout our work, reports of corruption in the management of the resources of schools has been the largest single clump of reports. This year, for the first time, or last year for the first time, reports on corruption in policing has exceeded the number of reports on corruption in schools. And this obviously is a worrying, extremely worrying phenomenon, you know, when the what is it, the gamekeepers turn poacher, we have a real problem. And it's also a problem, obviously, today, in the situation that we find ourselves in today, because that's another institution that probably rightly so has been given enhanced powers. But yeah, policing corruption is serious and very serious. And it's one of the areas that we are focusing on in our work. As you pointed out, corruption in the public healthcare system has increased. Those are the two, and together with schools, those are the three biggest single areas of corruption that are sectors of corruption that are reported to us.
And frightening, isn't it, David? I mean, we need these to keep us safe and to educate our children. And the whistleblowers who are involved in highlighting these activities, what happens to them?
Well, you know, whistleblowing can be a hazardous enterprise, I mean, to put it mildly. You know, we obviously work with a lot of whistleblowers. I mean, all the people who report to us are effectively whistleblowers, and people are scared and nervous. But people are still speaking out, which is great, you know. You know, we've also seen, you know, whistleblowers at the various commissions of inquiry. And, you know, I think the trick with whistleblowers is, you know, the legislation needs to be tightened up. There's no question about it. But basically, in order to protect whistleblowers, they need to be treated as heroes and not as sort of troublemakers, which is often what they are treated, even by people who are grateful for what they've done, odd as that may sound. You know, somebody who's been fired as a whistleblower in one company or one part of government doesn't easily get a job in another part, because people think, well, they did a good thing there, but do I really want this kind of outspoken troublemaker in my organization? So it's when they get treated as heroes rather than impimpies or troublemakers that whistleblowers will be best protected. but they are an absolutely vital ingredient in combating corruption. You can't detect a clandestine conspiracy unless somebody blows the whistle. And in some of the big cases that we've seen at the Zondo Commission, for example, the whistleblowers are people who themselves have been deeply implicated in corruption. But, that's okay. A change of heart, and let them come forward and spill the beans.
Take them, we should. Thanks for talking to us, particularly about the growing corruption in the police services. David Lewis, thank you.